Let's go. Thank you. How's it going, everybody? Good. So I go by Coach Camp. As she was saying, yes, I do a podcast. I'm a professional speaker, but I have several layers, kind of like an onion. You guys ever peeled an onion? I know, right? I'm going to try not to make you cry, though, right? So an onion will make you cry. But I started out simple enough, just like a lot of kids going to school, not knowing what I was going to do, not knowing what direction I was going to go in. I wanted to play second base for the New York Yankees. Are y'all familiar with the New York Yankees? Yeah, it turns out they don't take applications, so it wasn't working out for me. So whenever I got to the end of the days in high school, I'm like, man, what am I going to do? Didn't know. Had a lot of friends going to college, and I said, well, let me see what I can do. So I took the ACT. What's a good score on ACT? 25. Yeah, I went nowhere near that. I hit like a 16 solid. And I'm like, what can that get me into? Northwest, let me try that. So I went to Northwest Mississippi Community College. Y'all familiar with that place? Just down in Senatobia. So go down there, I'm like, man, you know what? I think I'm gonna be a doctor. Except there was a problem. You gotta be really smart to be a doctor, and it turned out I had not applied myself. So whenever I went into the dean's office, she looks at all my transcripts and she looks at my grades and she says, boy, what you been doing? I said, I don't know, but I thought pediatrician sounded cool. And they were like, well, let's find something different. Let's start with some general ed classes. I said, let's do that. So I started doing that. And then I came across a friend that was a police officer. And they was like, this is a really exciting job. I said, let me do that then. I think I like that. So I started taking criminal justice classes. Now all this is leading up to what brought me down the path of the military. So I go into the classes, I finish up in 2 years, get my associate's degree in criminal justice. I am going to be a police officer. But you know what? Back then, in that day, it was kind of tough to get on a lot of police departments. They weren't hiring all the time. It wasn't like kind of it is today. And I had some friends that had talked about military, travel, etc. Now, I'm not going to kid you guys. I was not the most disciplined kid when it came to getting stuff done, okay? So like I would procrastinate, I wouldn't get things done. I wasn't a bad kid in the sense where I got in trouble, but what I didn't do was anything I was supposed to do to put myself in a better position in life. And so whenever my friends told me, hey, you should consider going in the military, I was like, all right, maybe I will. So I'm literally driving home from Northwest one day, and I'm about to get off the interstate and go to my mom and dad's house. I'm almost 21, and I'm like, dang, I'm almost 21 years old. I'm almost a grown man. I'm living in my mom and daddy's house. What am I going to do about that? So I just kept driving. And I end up at the Air Force recruiter's office. And I go inside and I sit down. I said, sir, I want to go in the military. And he's like, all right, what you want to do in the military? I said, how about being a police officer? That sounds cool. I got my criminal justice degree, just finished that up, somehow made it through. He says, let me do that. So he signs me up, go through the process of getting checked out. And this is the part here where I'm just going to keep it real. I keep it real. That's what a professional speaker has to do, because if you try to put up layers of walls of lies or something to hide something, it just doesn't work. So I'm just being real, transparent. Just before I had went down there to the MEPS, I got pulled over by a police officer at a roadblock area. He looks in the back seat and he sees an unopened bottle of beer. I got arrested. Misdemeanor charge for possession of alcohol by a minor. I'm like, well, I guess that's it. My life is over. The guy at the MEP says, you know what? You can't qualify to be a police officer because of this, but here's a list of the jobs you do qualify for. One of those was a satellite operator. I said, all right, let me do that. I will become a satellite operator. Sounded really cool. Space age. Any of you guys ever watch Star Wars? No, one. My man. Right there. And now y'all know about Star Wars, Luke Skywalker? 2. I'll take 2. 3 in the house. Thank you, young lady. So I'm like, I'm going to go find out if there's aliens. I'm going to do all kind of cool stuff. So I go in the military, and I get assigned to my first base in Denver. Well, it's right outside of Denver, Colorado. Now, here's the interesting part about this. I didn't qualify as a police officer, but I ended up qualifying as a satellite operator. I thought, that's kind of cool. What does it require? Top secret clearance. So I had to have a top secret clearance, but I couldn't qualify to be a police officer. You figure that one out. That's called military intelligence, I guess. I don't know. So on this base, you had to go in, you do a thumbprint, you stand in this little booth, they do a retina scan, you punch in a code, you swipe your badge, you got 45 seconds. If you don't get these things done in 45 seconds, it locks in. The MPs, the guys that I wasn't allowed to be, come out and shake you down. So I do this job, and I think it's all right until I start doing it. I don't know if y'all know about ADD. Anybody ever heard about ADD? Some of y'all? What about ADHD? Anybody got that one? See, I got the ADHDs. I can't sit still. So this was a problem, because I got to be at this computer like this for 8 hours. Whew. I said, this has got to change. So I did that for 1 year. In that course of that 1 year, I started to learn what it meant to have discipline. I started to learn what it meant to not have an idea of an excuse that I can't do something. It started to give me the structure that I needed, because see, one thing about the military is this. The military don't care how bad your day is. The military doesn't care what you think you can and can't do. Whenever they gave me a task, I had to do that task. So I did that. And then a year later, I had an opportunity to change to database analyst. Now, this is where the story does start to get a little better, because all the way up to this point, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I changed over to database analyst. And that just meant that I followed around the F-15 fighter planes. Anybody familiar with the F-15? I got some cool pictures in a second. You're going to get to see that. So I followed them around all over the place, different bases I would go to, and I would keep up with their statistics. Now, whenever we get to that point where we're finally saying, hey, you guys got to go overseas to Saudi Arabia. Anybody ever been to Saudi Arabia? They got a lot of beachfront property. It's nothing but sand for as far as the eye can see. And I'm just like, dang, this is crazy. All of a sudden, here I am, comfortable in America, get to eat foods that I like and I'm familiar with, get to come and go basically as I wanted. And now I'm in Saudi Arabia and I'm in this little bitty base. And it's not big. They called it Tent City. You guys familiar with the Marines? I heard somebody say that. Y'all are familiar with the Army. Well, these guys are used to going and digging trenches and living in tents. I was in the Air Force. We usually get a bed and air conditioning. So whenever I get over there and I walk down this long trek of all these tents, and I walk in and realize I'm in this tent in the middle of the desert by myself, things got real. All of a sudden, I was not in Kansas anymore, as they might say in The Wizard of Oz. Have you ever seen The Wizard of Oz? Yeah. It's a little different. All of a sudden, I realized what it meant to be in the military. The discipline kicked in, and what you had to make yourself be able to do was real. So we spent several months out there in the desert. You had to shake your boots out before you put them on in the morning. Why do you think you had to shake your boots out? Not snakes, scorpions and spiders. They had this thing called a camel spider that was the size of that basket right there. And look, I'm going to tell you now, my opinion is a spider the size of your thumbnail could kill you. That's how I feel about spiders. So clearly a spider that big could eat your whole body up. So the challenges wasn't just the fact that I was in the desert and you had to walk everywhere you went, and there was always desert sand blowing up on you. You had to walk down and take a shower. You had to walk down and use the restroom. Everything was a walk, and you were in the desert and you were in sand. And there was a lot of dangers out there. But in the end, whenever I was done and I was able to come back home, suddenly I had a whole new appreciation for everything in my life. Suddenly I realized that it didn't matter what was put before me, I was more capable of. So are any of you guys considering going in the military? Nobody? Well, here's what I will tell you. Here's what I would tell you. At your age, I didn't either. At your age, I really didn't have a lot of things figured out. But what I can say is this. I only spent 4 years in, but those 4 years transformed everything about me. Now, uniquely enough, whenever I went to get out and come home, that actually transpired into what I would do next when I met a guy that was a firefighter. And he told me all about it, and I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So I came home and became a firefighter paramedic, where I retired from Memphis in 2016. Now I'm a professor at Southwest, and since then became a motivational speaker / podcast extraordinaire with Mr. Derek Nishu, SRP Studios. So anyways, all of that to say this. It doesn't matter where you are in your life. It doesn't matter what you've been through in your life. What I can say is anybody is capable of anything they put their mind to. Who remembers what I made on my ACT? What was it? 16. Do you know what I was told by so many people at that time? Give up. You ain't going anywhere. You ain't got what it takes. Well, since that point, whenever I was told what I couldn't do, I had graduated with an associate's degree. I had done 4 years in the military. I came home. I got a second associate's degree, and then I got a third associate's degree. This is obviously a trend where I was finding myself on a level plane and couldn't go here. Eventually got my bachelor's and then my master's. Now I teach college. I don't care where you've been and what you've been through. I am telling you, you're capable of whatever you put your mind to. That is a fact. So, y'all want to see a few pictures? Yes, Coach Ken, that sounds amazing, and I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I didn't have near as much fur on my face back then. This was one of our promotionals. You go up, whole room full of people. Seems like you'd be nervous, but really I didn't care. It was fine. It was good. This was at basic training. My mom and dad had come down to see me, and at that point in time, I had not been away from home at any point in time. So through basic training, I got to tell you, I did get a little homesick, but seeing them was pretty good. They came in, got to see a little bit of what we were doing. I don't know why that's not clicking. I'm not holding my mouth right. Oh, there it goes. This was basically all the beds you would see in a bed hall for basic training. Notice how neatly kept all the beds are. You had your day's outfit set up. This little piece of paper you see on all the beds, they had to have our name and rank so they knew who to come get if your stuff wasn't in order. And then one of the things with the F-15s is they would take us out on different training missions so that we could see how operations went. This is a C-5, which is a fueling plane. We got to go up in it. You get down into the boom area, which is really cool. So there's like this little window and you lay down at the bottom of the plane and the F-15s fly up underneath the plane. And this is your boom and it just kind of floats out there into the air, and the F-15 comes up and links to the side and it refuels in midair while it's flying. It's pretty cool. But those kind of things, you know, that it was unique in the sense that where I come from and what I had done in my life, I had never seen anything like this. And I don't know if you guys pay attention much to the news, but recently, and these operations are dangerous, there was a group of Navy SEALs that just perished because they were trying to refuel in midair, but they were with a helicopter. So there are definitely dangers involved. But I will tell you this, it changed my life forever, and I'm excited about what the future holds. And I can tell you I would not be the person today that I am without that military experience. So, do any of you guys have any questions immediately, or did you want me to wait on that? No. Anybody got any questions? Comments, thoughts, ideas?
I'm curious about the beds. Now, hold on.
Back
to the picture where we were seeing.
Back it on up.
I've been told it's very strict about
It is.
how you make your bedding and how everything is supposed to be kept. Can you tell us more?
Yeah. So just to let you know, my bed was actually way down here. I was the bottom bunk of this bunk bed right here. And every morning we were awakened to reveille. Y'all know what reveille is? It's this really loud song. That's the best I can do. That's all I got. And so you immediately spring out of bed. Now when I would lay down, because you didn't want to have to pull too many things in the morning, I would try to lay and get my feet as straight as possible and fall asleep like a stiff board so that I didn't mess it up. And then in the morning when that thing would go off, I just roll out the bed real fast, get underneath it, tug it, start tying knots underneath the bottom so it'd get real tight. And then you have to fold the top over and make sure it's tucked in. They came through and you had even the slightest wrinkle. Yeah, you're going to get in some version of trouble at that point, whatever that might be for the day. Usually it involves some kind of physical activities to it, but I will say day one was very interesting. When you get off the bus, and you ain't never been yelled at in your life, and you've never had this structure of screaming and activities, and they're hollering at you to hurry up, put your nose right here, and they're walking up and down behind you, I'm just sitting there thinking, what did I sign up for? What is going on? Like I want to raise my hand and ask a question, but that's probably the wrong thing to do. You guys like Snickers bars? Any kind of candy bar? Any candy bar eaters? 3 candy, 4, 5, 12. All right, good. It's quick math. That's Common Core. Here's what I can tell you about candy bars. I never ate candy bars ever. And all of a sudden, whenever you are told you can't have anything unless it is given to you, man, the first time we had an opportunity, which was like 3 weeks in, to get some kind of snacks, I think I ate like 3 candy bars just because I could. It was crazy. Sometimes the military is not that exciting. I could give you other exciting stories, but it's all about veterans. And what I want y'all to know is, even if it's not the thing for you, you should appreciate your veterans. They do stuff that a lot of people don't want to do. You don't want to leave your families. You don't want to go overseas, and you don't want to have to live in tents. And that's not always the exciting thing to do. But without them, we would not be able to be the nation that we are. Hey, everybody, y'all just keep tuning in. Until next time, Coach Cam out.